what's wrong with following their advice? I mean, they're
Well,
popular. They got a popular following. So what's wrong with them?
well, I guess, I in my book, I lay out sort of 6 principles. And and let me just say, I think by and large, people like particularly Suze Orman, who I actually have, I don't know her personally, but I know people that know her, and
Yeah.
she's a good person. She means well. She has, and she's helped a lot of people, and so I don't want to disparage any of them personally or ethically either. But all of them, I think, violate the very first principle that I lay out in the book, which is that, and this is kind of, I'm paraphrasing an actuary friend of mine, which is that if you've seen one financial plan, you've seen one financial plan.
Yeah.
Everybody's situation is completely different. I mean, not just their financial situation, and not just what their risk tolerance, but where how they value the present versus the future versus the near term, how patient they are. Everybody's got their own particular situation and set of consequences. So you can't, so all of these people, and I think Dave Ramsey is probably the most egregious offender, if I can name names, because he believes debt is bad, and you simply can't say debt is bad. It's bad in some circumstances. It's good in others. It's useful here. It can get you in trouble. Sure. And so these rules of thumb and here's what prescriptions that are supposed to be generally applicable. I think it's the wrong way of approaching financial planning, and that's what I take issue with on all of those folks. Well, and frankly, there are people on the other side. I mean, so there's Dave Ramsey, who's says debt is the devil incarnate,
right?
And then there's there's other guys. I think it's who's the guy wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad. I mean, he's he says right, and he's basically saying take on as much as you can because you can just no money down. You can buy this, and then you just leverage, and that's not right either because leveraging can amplify. Taking on debt can help you amplify the returns you get on the investment you're borrowing against. But on the other hand, it can make you very fragile and put you at much greater risk than you really want to be if you understood the kind of risk that you were taking by taking on that kind of debt.
I mean, it sounds like it cuts both ways, and it sounds like that's you could. I mean, because that's really that's in Ramsey's defense. He'll say, well, he might say, well, the reason I'm so against debt is because look at Americans. Like, look at the majority of Americans. They're in up to their eyeballs, and they just keep. They just keep charging up their credit cards. They're 40, 50,000 in debt. They've got, several $100,000 up to $1 million in a mortgage. They're spending and they're not saving anything. I mean, where are savings rates right now? And I think maybe that's what I can't speak for him, obviously, but maybe that's what he would say is you're overloaded. So we got to swing in the other direction.
Well, I in that sense, I think all of these folks, they're not dumb people. I mean, they have analyzed, and particularly Rick Edelman. I mean, I felt a little bit bad that I criticized him because Rick is he works at Stanford with some of my friends down there, and he really is a very bright guy, and but he too will make prescriptions that are generally maybe make sense if you look at the average, but
Sure.
there is no average person. It's we're all, we're 300 million or 350 million individuals. And, so we have to take a little more granular approach. And unfortunately, that requires that each of us take more responsibility for our own situation.